All right. Welcome back, everybody, to the Liverpool Reaction, an American LFC podcast. As always, I'm joined by Coach Ralph. Coach, good morning. How are you feeling about this past week?
Well, you can't feel bad if Liverpool's top of the league, so let's enjoy it while we can.
Yeah, what a week, too, especially this weekend. Arsenal and Manchester City lose, and we win in a very tight affair. But Coach, let's start at the League Cup that was on Wednesday between the same two teams, Brighton and Liverpool. This was at the Amex Stadium. Scoreline was 3-2. Gakpo with an two just really good goals. When he puts his foot through the ball, I mean, that ball sails. And Adingra got one back with a stab with the kind of bottom of his cleats. He just kind of kicked at it and went in, and then off a rebound. And then Luis Diaz, some great dribbling in the box, scores. And then Tariq Lamptey gets a deflection goal in the end. But overall reaction to the game?
Well, I think it would be fair to bill the game as a game between the shadow squads, as it were. I think that's the first thing that you'd have to note. Liverpool haven't always done well when they've gone down to Brighton, so to go down and get a result, I think, obviously is a positive. And yeah, it was a great night for Cody Gakpo, who's on a very strong run right now and looking very, very powerful in the wide areas. And I think you're correct when he cuts inside and he drills the ball. I mean, he has a serious shot.
That first one had a little it wasn't a ball where he wrapped his foot around it. He definitely put his foot through the ball, but it kind of knuckled a little bit towards the post, towards the goal, but it was well past the goalie.
Oh yeah, the keeper didn't have a chance really.
Yeah, and then the second one, he comes down the flank, down the left flank, and just nobody steps up to him, and again puts his foot through the ball, short post. Good goal.
Right. But I think overall, I think the manager will look at it not just in terms of the result, but in terms of a lot of players got a run.
Mm-hmm.
By and large, I thought the performances were positive all round. And like the Saturday game that we'll come on to, it was very much a game of two halves.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Coach, what'd you think of watching Gyros play in goal? I thought that one save he made was outstanding. The header, he was going one way and then kind of dove back and got his fingers to it and deflected off the post. Right. Looks like a promising young keeper.
Right. Well, he played in pre-season a lot, as did a lot of the reserves in the shadow squad, and I thought he looked good. You have to believe that he's rated because he's already won a cap for his country. So, I mean, like Czech Republic usually has strong football heritage and traditions and what have you. So everything that we've seen of Jaros so far is positive, and be interesting to see as they keep progressing. I mean, a lot depends on Alisson, but will the manager keep playing him? Although I don't think the next round is for a long time yet, is it? I think it's around Christmas time.
Yeah, I think so. Yeah, it's the quarterfinals, and we drew Southampton, which is.
So I think Kelleher could well be back by then if Alisson is fit and playing in the first team.
Yeah, with a goalie like that, does he stay with the first team or do they move him back down to get some game time? What's the strategy there?
Yeah, it doesn't seem to be like that anymore. I mean, for many years, Liverpool dominated what was called the Central League, which was the reserve league, and basically it was in the era where there would only be 12 players on first team duty. There would be 11 on the field and one substitute. So basically, everybody else that was in the squad would play for the reserves. but that seems to be actually, ironically, it seems to mirror the American system of varsity and JV.
Right.
On varsity, and like you're not playing, then you're not playing. And that seems to be the system. So I think occasionally you might get something if a player's coming back from injury where they would play them with the under-21 team, but I don't think it generally happens anymore.
Mm-hmm. Any specific details in the game? You did mention a game of two halves. Anything else kind of stood out to you?
Not really. I think in the League Cup game, the Carabao Cup game, I think it was more. I think the first half was pretty uneventful, and then of course it kind of exploded in the second half.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't know whether that has something to do with the fact that both teams don't want to go to penalties and everything like that. And certainly the first goal by Gakpo opened up the game to a great degree.
Mm-hmm.
And so it was a totally different match in terms of the way it was played and the tactics from both teams. They wanted to win then at that point.
Yeah, the game started off really sloppy. Steele, the Brighton goalkeeper, was really testing the waters there with his feet.
Yeah, he was fortunate on a couple of occasions.
Yeah, I think that probably summed up the first half a little sloppy, and then the second half really, like you said, exploded into life. Coach, the advantage of winning these types of games is with a big squad with a lot of good players is people get playing time and keeps the team engaged, the players engaged that maybe aren't directly starting or coming in off the bench. Any other advantages of winning a game like this, where the League Cup is kind of the lowest priority as far as the different competitions we're in?
Yeah, I think for the manager, I think every time he sees players play, he learns things about them. What they can do, what maybe they're not so strong at, how they react to different situations, whether it's a team going ahead, falling behind, making mistakes. So he gets a lot of information, and obviously he sees something in training. But I think that what you see in a game is a kind of a totally different level again. So I think Arne Slot will come away, and I think unfortunately the focus was on Quansah again because he made an error on the first goal, and then the second goal was just one of those situations where the ball deflected on him, off of him. But yeah, he'll learn things about his players because, like, you have a situation, for example, where there was the injury at the weekend to Konate. Maybe at the season he'd have put Quansah on, but it doesn't mean that he thinks Quansah is a bad player, because I think he is a good central defender, and I think he has a good future ahead of him. But right now he seems to be struggling a little bit. So he went with the experience of Joe Gomez, and it was a good call.
Yeah, Quansah got subbed out in the, I think, 90th minute for Konate to kind of see the game out, and not the best body language, from a standpoint of confidence. Dipped his head a little bit. He's struggling with confidence more than anything, I think.
Yeah, I think his confidence has taken a hit, and I think that's probably why the substitution was made. Well, it was why the substitution was made, because the manager's going to read what his confidence level is. I mean, okay, he made a mistake, but he played on for a long time, and then the ball deflects off him, and I think it's only natural for a player to feel that everything's going against him.
Yeah.
And at that point of the game, make a change. There's only a couple of minutes left, and Konate came on, and as they like to say, took one for the team in terms of a yellow card. And so you don't know whether Quansah would have done that, perhaps, if he was posed in the same situation. But yeah, I think that was certainly a decision to get the result.
Yeah. So moving on to to the Premier League match that was on Saturday, again against Brighton, but this one was at Anfield. By the time I woke up, I saw that Arsenal lost 1-0 to Newcastle on a header. Wow, I'm blanking on his name.
Isaac.
Isak. Yeah.
Isak, sorry, yeah.
Yeah, he's starting to come into form, which is good to see for Newcastle fans. But and then I turned the Liverpool game on and was monitoring the City game, and they went down relatively early. But Liverpool's first half performance was rough. The game ended 2-1, but the first half was very rough. The goal by Kadioglu, I believe, I might be butchering that, but was a great strike off the post, and you could say well-deserved by Brighton in the first half. It looked very rough for Liverpool.
Yeah, I think you've got to give credit to Brighton.
Yeah.
I thought they played very, very well. They had a good game plan. They've obviously got a lot of talented players. They've recruited well. And the new manager, he may be young and relatively inexperienced, but he seems to have a pretty clear vision of what he's trying to accomplish. And so they came into the game, and it was working. It was working. I think the ball fell to the player fortuitously, but that was going to even itself out in the second half. It was a great strike. It was a great strike. The goalie, Kelleher really had no chance with it.
Yeah.
And it was a deserved lead, and they could well have even increased it, but they didn't take the chances.
Yeah. Coach, what specifically did Brighton do, you think, that strategically that was so effective? Was it looked like the counter press was in midfield, and they were kind of owning the midfield.
Well, they pressed well, but also when Liverpool started to get possession, they kind of sat in very well. So it was tough to go through them, and when Liverpool had possession, it was certainly in areas that wasn't going to hurt Brighton. And consequently, no, in comparison, I would say that when Brighton had the ball, they were really, really positive with their possession, quick, moved the ball into dangerous areas. And whether it was because of midfield domination, I'm not sure, but that's probably a factor. But they were just very impressive in terms of their possession. And then the other thing that I thought was a big factor in that first half was that they were sharper into the tackle.
Yeah.
Like they seemed to win a lot of the loose balls, and as a result, Liverpool started to turn the ball over. So just an excellent performance by Brighton that showed a lot about them as a team.
The only bright spot in the first half was Darwin in the 9th minute, receiving the ball at half, kind of chips it over the defender, brushes off another defender, dribbles into the box, cuts it to his right, and almost scores. And I mean, that would have been a highlight, like a big highlight goal for Darwin. And it's encouraging, I think, to see him make these types of runs and traveling with the ball, and being a little bit tricky with the ball and getting a shot off.
Yeah. I mean, I thought he did very, very well, and it was a great save by the keeper.
Yeah.
So was there another big chance for Liverpool in the first half? I can't remember. I thought there were two, but
yeah, Robertson at the short post.
Right.
Yeah.
So, but clearly the chance that Darwin created was kind of Liverpool's biggest moment of the first half, in a half really that Brighton were on top.
Yeah. Second half starts, and it starts to kind of turn into Liverpool's half. And there's a couple things that I noticed. the stadium got rocking. They were singing. It was louder. It came to life, and it was because I think the team got a lot tighter to Brighton. Um, they didn't have as much space. It didn't look like uh, their first half strategy and tactics of being very positive with the ball and moving it into dangerous areas. They didn't have as much time and space, is what I saw. What are some things that you saw in the second half that kind of turned the tide for Liverpool?
Well, I think competitively, whereas as I'd noted before, Brighton were always first to the loose ball, winning the 50-50s. I think that began to turn. I mean, I'm sure the manager, however he did it, he seems like a pretty calm guy. I don't know whether he goes over the top like a Jurgen Klopp or an Alex Ferguson might, but.
Right.
I think he imparted a message on them, that they needed to get more into the game, and that's both on the ball and off the ball, and that's what we started to see. I think that's what we started to see, and it went up another gear again when he brought on Jones and Diaz.
Yeah.
So everything moving in the right direction. Although having said that, I thought that Brighton was still handling Liverpool pretty well, but they weren't having the same level of dominance anymore like they did in the first half.
Yeah, the chances were coming a little bit thicker. McAllister had a header that was saved. Virgil van Dijk on the, I don't know how he missed contact on the ball with a deep ball was put in the box, and I think he was just kind of sitting there because of the corner kick prior to it, and I mean just whiffed on the ball. Him and Darwin kind of got in each other's way a little bit, and then Salah had a breakaway that tried to chip the goalie, and the goalie made a good save. So it felt like a goal was coming at some point in the second half. The goal finally came in the 69th minute. Gakpo shot / cross, or cross rather / shot. Darwin gets in the way, just kind of creates a lot of indecisiveness for Verbruggen, and Verbruggen just kind of sat there and didn't know what to do, and the ball creeps into the back. What were your thoughts on that goal by Gakpo? Like you said earlier, is on a really, really nice form.
Right. I mean, obviously there's an element of fortune about it, but at the same time, that's why coaches tell players to cross and to shoot to the far post.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, it was a dangerous ball. The run of Darwin Núñez is a distraction.
Mm-hmm.
And it was obviously close to his head because we weren't sure whether or not he touched it. So the point is element of fortune, but yet from a coaching point of view, that's what you want your players to do, and a lot of pace on it. And Darwin's run certainly took out the keeper. I mean, like, the keeper had played very well.
Yeah.
Some good saves, but that was something that I wouldn't hold him responsible for, because there were just some elements to the Liverpool goal which from a Liverpool perspective the coach would want.
Yeah. The second goal comes not, I think, 2.5 minutes later. Technically the 72nd minute. Classic Salah goal, right, Coach?
Yeah, I mean, highlighted that it's your archetypal Mo Salah goal, and as I think many have pointed out, he's not really been in the game that much up until that point, but then gets the ball, and the next thing you know, he's cut inside and it's in the top corner. So yeah, a very, very typical Mo Salah goal that we've seen over the years.
Some details within the game. Konate gets hurt at the end of the first half. Turns out it's not very serious. He will be back playing, I think he said, the weekend. I'm not sure if he's going to play tomorrow against Bayer Leverkusen. But Joe Gomez came in, almost scored twice. He's never scored a goal in the Premier League. It's kind of kind of a shocking detail about him, but It's he played really well, and you mentioned that the coach went with Joe Gomez instead of bringing in Kwanzaa. Let's talk about that a little bit.
Yeah, I mean Gomez is a player that is quite underrated. I mean, he's had spells when he's been the first choice in the team,
Mm-hmm.
and then he's had bad luck with some injuries. I think twice he's gone away with England and picked up a bad injury, which has kept him out for the season or pretty much most of the season.
Yeah.
So he's not had the best fortune when it comes to that. And he's versatile. I mean, he's played every position along the back four. And I believe, as one pundit pointed out correctly, he even played as a defensive midfielder in one game.
That's right. Yeah.
When Liverpool had an injury run.
Mm-hmm.
So I think he's an excellent player. I think he's underrated. I mean, he got into the England squad for the Euros, and I was kind of surprised that in the end that he wasn't used when there were question marks about England at the back, because he's very fast. He's very fast, and even though he's right-footed, he's played a lot on the left. And I think he'll use his left if he has to. So, I was kind of surprised about that. But anyway, so I suspect he'll play tomorrow against Leverkusen.
Mm-hmm.
Whether he keeps his place for the weekend, that will be interesting. That will be interesting because I thought he was excellent. I thought he was excellent against Brighton. And I'm sure that we will all be looking to see if he plays tomorrow, whether he keeps that same level up.
Yeah. Coach, there's a couple players, specifically McAllister, looked a little leggy. Just wasn't his explosive self. Not that he's like a quick or fast, explosive type player, but he's very good on the ball and knows what to do. And just seemed like his mind was telling him one thing, but his legs couldn't really put it together. These trips to South America and back. Now he's got another one coming up, I think, after this weekend or the next weekend. It'll be nice to get the international breaks over for a while. Did you notice that as well, Coach? What did you think of his play? Because it just didn't seem sharp.
Did he pick up a yellow card earlier in the game?
I think he did.
Yeah.
I'm going to check that while you talk. Go ahead.
No, so like that might have affected his play to some degree. I mean, we're still in kind of the early days of the Arne Slot era. And I think we've mentioned this before, but he's not really rotating a lot. I think that what he's trying to do with all these games coming back to back to back is to vary the pace of the game. I think that's what he's trying to do to manage. And the one area where he maybe doesn't feel he has as many choices is in the midfield.
Mm-hmm.
And that's especially with Harvey Elliott out.
Yep.
So, yeah, it's going to be intriguing to see how long he can keep this up for, because I think the bigger picture is that I think for several reasons Liverpool didn't make signings over the summer. But I have to believe that his strategy longer term is getting in 2 or 3 players that he feels fits his system effectively.
Yeah.
And I kind of get the sense that in midfield that's the one area where he might feel that Liverpool are lacking. So he's not really looked to some of the younger academy type kids that Jurgen Klopp has. I mean, he let Bajcetic go out on loan. He sold Bobby Clark. So, I mean, like, there could be other reasons for that, but maybe he just didn't fancy them as being compatible to what he sees as his system for the longer haul.
Yeah.
And I think he's tended to go with more experience. What we don't know is if Harvey Elliott hadn't been injured while on international duty, how much would Harvey Elliott have played?
Yeah.
I mean, because I think logically Elliott is kind of the backup to McAllister.
Mm-hmm.
So with McAllister, it's not a question of all the travelling. Apparently, he's had some kind of niggly type injury, but he still played him a lot. He's played him a lot, and I think that in the modern game, the athleticism of the opponents and the speed of play, and then just the sheer volume of games, managers need to rotate, which is why I always kind of smile a little bit when they talk about any manager doesn't know the first 11 of the team, because it's not an 11-a-side game anymore.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, that's a good point about Harvey Elliott. I had written that down in my notes. Is he should be back soon. His injury was in the first international break, which was in September.
Yeah.
So he should be back soon, and that'll hopefully provide some.
Yeah, I believe he should be coming back after the next break, as will Jota as well. I think that's when they're due to come back. I don't know when Alisson's supposed to be returning, though.
I think it's very similar with Alisson too.
Mm-hmm.
Coach, Curtis Jones comes on, really good, energetic, got the ball moving. He's really stating his case for a starting 11 spot. I mean, he's been playing very well.
Yeah, so we haven't talked much about tomorrow's game against Leverkusen, but I have a feeling he'll start. I have a feeling Robertson will be back in the starting 11 as well.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm guessing that Canate won't be fit, so it'll be Gomez. So I guess the other question is, will he start Diaz over Gakpo?
I think so.
So yeah, I mean, I think the dynamic is trying to keep a lot of very good players happy, which isn't always the easiest thing to do. I think you can ask Carlo Ancelotti that at Real Madrid right now.
Yeah.
Where I think it's at another level again, but yeah. So these are all interesting decisions, but overall, I don't feel he's rotating much. I feel that he's trying to change the pace of games, so they have up-tempo periods and then slower periods. And maybe a contributory factor to Liverpool's first half performance is that they're not used to low key, because under the predecessor it was very high tempo, take the game to the opponent.
Mm-hmm. So Arsenal loses, like I mentioned. City goes down as well, 2-1. And I watched the highlights of the City game, and Semenyo was an absolute monster in that game. Bournemouth could have put 4 past them. Now, to be fair to City could have scored a couple more goals as well. But, man, Semenyo looks like, I mean, just an absolute big beast out there, just really was bossing the game.
Yeah, I haven't seen the highlights of this particular game, but I picked out Semenyo over a number of weeks now. He's a very good player, and apparently the rumor is Liverpool are monitoring him. So, would he fit in with the Liverpool style? I would like to believe so. Arne Slot is best judged to make that call.
Mm-hmm.
I believe they're also looking at the left fullback. Is it Kirkesh?
Yeah, Kirkesh. He had both assists in that game, and had an opportunity to score. Yeah,
I believe that they're looking at those two. So they would be good signings, I would think, in theory. But if they are to sign them, they're not going to sign them in January. They would be summer signings, I would have to think.
With January around the corner, Coach, is there a specific position that we need to reinforce? Was it the midfield that if we can find something?
Probably the midfield, but I think that's going to be a combination of. I mean, Liverpool has money, but are they going to get their top choices? Or will they be adding more squad type players in January? I think that's more likely, more of a squad player.
Coach, with City having like all these injuries, and Haaland is 1 goal in 5 games. Is this a good opportunity to really get some points between us and them, or do you think that City is just in a bad run of form here, and are they missing Rodri maybe more than we even thought?
Well, they may be missing Rodri because he's possible. Well, he is the top player in his position in the world, and obviously De Bruyne isn't 100%.
Yeah.
I mean, he's a great player, but I don't know how much of a factor he's going to be ultimately because he's getting on and he's picking up injuries and what have you. But they still have a very good squad. So I've seen some suggestions that maybe the Premier League is kind of reverting to what it used to be. It's more competitive because I think City this season, I think there's two ways of looking at it. They've not played particularly well, but up until Saturday, they were undefeated and they seemed to be just about scraping home in a lot of the games.
Yeah.
Now, they are coming up to a run of fixtures, which is tougher, one of which is Liverpool. So I think from a Liverpool perspective, they really can't get too ahead of themselves because obviously there's Champions League, and then next weekend Aston Villa comes to Anfield. Now, I only watched the first half of the Aston Villa Tottenham game at the weekend, and I was pretty impressed with Aston Villa in terms of how they control the game.
Yeah.
And they were leading at the interval. I didn't see the second half, but I did see the score, and you're kind of going, "Wow, where did that come from?" Because I thought they were in charge based on the first half performance. Now Villa are obviously in contention this year. I don't know if they're going to be in contention for the title, but they're certainly going to be in contention for Champions League places. A good start in the Champions League. So what kind of team will show up at Anfield next week? Clearly, they have talent. They have a good manager. So they have a lot going for them. But I recall last year that I think they'd been on a good run and they came to Anfield and they were awful on the day. Why? And Liverpool won very, very comfortably 3-0. So I think from a red perspective, I think you just got to concentrate on doing the best you can in every game and see where we're at by the start of the new year.
Yeah. So before Villa, we got Leverkusen on Tuesday, which is tomorrow. Coach, obviously the Xabi Alonso coming home narrative, but we get to see some really quality players on that team as well. What do you expect from a game tomorrow? Is Leverkusen, you think, going to sit back and let Liverpool kind of own the ball? And what do you see happening?
Well, I haven't seen them play this year. I haven't seen them play as yet. My guess is that they'll probably try to play a positive game. But at the same time, I don't think they'll go for Liverpool hell for leather or anything like that. How will Liverpool play it? Because obviously there's going to be a big atmosphere because of the return of Xabi Alonso. And especially as he was probably the top choice to replace Jurgen Klopp, which is kind of an undercurrent to the game. But I'm expecting an open game. I'm kind of more intrigued as to how Liverpool will play it. Whether Arne Slot will try to get them to play in kind of a classic Liverpool style for European games, where there's always the fantastic atmosphere, and then you play off that and you really early on in the game take it to the opponent.
Yeah.
Which I think is what we would like to see.
For sure.
But yeah. So I think there's a lot of intriguing elements in this game. Let's just put it like that.
Yeah, for sure. Coach, we talked about Villa already at the weekend, but Coach, now a little bit over a quarter of the way gone. There's people saying Arsenal's out of the title race. I don't understand where these kind of comments come from. Like, I mean, things can flip very quickly. An injury here, an injury there, suspension, good run of former games. But again, Coach, you and I were cautiously optimistic at the beginning, and we preached give this guy time. And best start of any Liverpool manager has got us at the top of the table. We're undefeated in the Champions League. I mean, a lot of things to smile about, huh?
There are. I mean, but I think that you've got to be honest when you look at the Liverpool team. I mean, I think they're very good. Slot has admitted that he's inherited a good squad.
Right.
So I think there's no question about that. It's not the situation that Jurgen Klopp was in when he took over from Rodgers.
Mm-hmm.
So he's got a good squad. I don't think there's really any deadwood on it. And they've been impressive in some ways, but my gut feeling is that they're not at the level of the top teams we've had over the past 4 or 5 years.
Mm-hmm.
That is my gut feeling. And so I think, and I believe we've mentioned this before, I think that he's very much in the phase of he's looking at his players, he's looking at his tactics with these players, and he's working out what they can do and what his ultimate goal is in terms of the system.
Mm-hmm.
And so that's why I feel ultimately he'll be looking to bring in 2 or 3 players which will take the group in that direction. And maybe players move on, but you're right. I mean, like, there is a lot to smile about. And to be positive of. But at the start of the season, my forecast was that they would make it into the Champions League places. Will they be the champions? I'm not sure. The fact that people are writing off Arsenal is unfortunately something to do with the Manchester City era.
Right.
Where there's been such a level of domination that to drop points is like a disaster all of a sudden. And I still, even though Manchester City haven't played as well as they have in the past, and maybe there's some question marks, I still feel that at some point, a lot of their games are formalities, unfortunately, and so people can rightly point out, well, Bournemouth was a formality and they lost, but will that happen regularly? I doubt it. I doubt it'll happen regularly like that. So I think that for right now, Liverpool and all of the other teams at the top, they just keep taking it game week to week, and I think at Christmas. We'll see things falling into place one way or another more clearly. Some are starting to make Liverpool the favourites, but I think it's way too early for that myself.
Yeah. So fantasy, Coach, you get 47 points. I had 40.
Yeah.
I still have Emil Smith Rowe playing today, and Wisa. I brought in Wisa. But Coach, Semenyo, 10 points for you. Salah, 9 points. Rogers, 9 points. You captain Haaland again. You're keeping the faith with him.
Well, actually, I have to confess that I was going to change him, but I was so distracted with other things that I forgot to do it.
I hear you. It happens. I got my captain right. I captain Mo Salah. However, with some of the changes I made, I left Rodgers on the bench, and so 9 points gone there. But like I said, I have Wisa and Smith Rowe. Coach, you moved up a spot to 8th. And the top 4 are all within 13 points of each other. So we got a tight race, at least in fantasy league, with four teams fighting for the top spot. I'm still ahead with 594 points, but 586, 584, 581. I mean, a quick flip can happen at any point in time.
So I am looking at my fantasy team now, and I thought Van de Ven didn't play, so I thought they moved somebody from the bench onto the team.
Yeah, so when the game week is over, yeah, you will get Harwood. Bellis will move in for Van de Ven. Yep.
Right.
Yeah. So yeah, you'll have 53 at that point, which
Okay.
is pretty good week considering the average right now is 34.
Oh, it is?
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
So let's see. With that, you'll probably, yeah, you'll be tied for. Actually, will you go ahead? Oh, he's got Mbeumo tonight, so you'll probably be a point behind 7th place. So yeah, that's a good call that they do bring in those subs. I'm almost hoping Emil Smith Rowe doesn't play so I can get Rodgers in there with a 9-pointer, but we'll see what happens. Coach, a lot of good things. Another 2 games this coming up week. We had mentioned last week you weren't sure that Liverpool could win both games, so you were almost kind of hoping they would lose the League Cup game. However, they did come through with 2 wins. What's your prediction for the next 2 games?
Oh, God.
Got to put you on the spot.
Yeah. I always feel that I should say, Liverpool will win both. I mean, like they are having a good run right now. Do you know what I'm going to say? And hope I'm wrong. They'll draw with Leverkusen and they'll beat Villa.
That was my prediction. Yeah.
Because I think the Champions League game, I mean, I think even if they were to lose it, it's not the end of the world.
Yeah.
I think the stakes, unfortunately, are higher in the Premier League, because of this Manchester City era. So I think if they were to prioritize the games, that they would probably put Villa over Leverkusen.
Yeah. Nottingham Forest is in 3rd, so it's Liverpool, Manchester City, Nottingham Forest in 3rd, Chelsea in 4th, Arsenal in 5th, Aston Villa in 6th. Coach, Aston Villa is going to come to Anfield with off losing pretty convincingly, at least in the second half, to Tottenham. I mean, they need to get this one to kind of keep up with everybody else. Not saying that if they lose they're out of the top 4 or anything, but pretty important game for them as well.
Right. I'm just looking to see who they play in the Champions League this week. Aston Villa. Looks like, are they playing? Oh, no. They play on Wednesday. They go to Bruges. They go to Club Bruges to play. So
Wednesday, Saturday for them, Tuesday, Saturday for us.
Oh yeah, that's an advantage for Liverpool.
Yeah, that's rest advantage.
So yeah, I mean, from an Aston Villa perspective, I don't know how they would prioritize it. You feel that Bruges is a team that they should beat. But having said that, it's away from home. So that's always going to be an element in it. And I don't know how they would prioritize that. They might look at the Champions League as being more important. I don't know. But I guess both games, I would be surprised if Unai Emery thinks that they can win the league. But I'm sure that he will be thinking, like, we've got to make sure that we keep the Champions League thing going for next season.
Yeah.
So maybe that's a reason, similar to Liverpool, in as much as they're joint top of the Champions League with Liverpool. Like they've won all their games. So if they get a draw in Belgium, that's a decent result.
Yeah.
And maybe go harder for Liverpool on Saturday.
Yeah. After this round of games, it'll be halfway through the 8-match table format. So we'll be able to take stock a little bit more after the Champions League games during the week, Tuesday and Wednesday.
I mean, if Liverpool win against Leverkusen, they're in a fabulous position, because aren't they saying that something like 14 or 15 points guarantees that you're going to finish top 8 pretty much?
Yeah, something like that. Yeah. And Coach, so just a quick look ahead. Southampton after Villa. So after Villa, there's an international break, and then Southampton, and then Madrid, and then City. I'm excited for those 2 games. I want to see how the team competes with 2 upper echelon teams, especially Real Madrid. I mean, all the talent they have. I can't believe they got Mbappe for free. I mean, Trent's maybe got his head turned. We don't know. I mean, these are 2 high caliber teams with good coaches and just like a never say die spirit. What just a quick maybe 30 seconds or a minute about Madrid at home with all that talent. How are we feeling about that one?
Well, I think that after the humbling they got at the hands of Barcelona,
wow, that was a thrashing. Yeah.
So I mean, obviously they've got fabulous players, but I think that the challenge for Ancelotti is to get them all working together.
Yeah.
Because there's, after the hissy fit over the Ballon d'Or,
I know.
There's some big egos in that squad.
Yeah. That was so. The Ballon d'Or thing. Were you surprised that Rodri won it? He's a great player, but normally it usually goes to more offensive type of players. Not saying that he doesn't deserve it. I was just surprised, but also, you're talking about the hissy fit. For those that don't know, Real Madrid boycotted going to it because they knew that Rodri had won, and that's just, I mean, sportsmanship wise, that is just bush league. But you're right, they do have a lot of egos, but the fact that all of them boycotted it is just ridiculous.
Yeah, I think awards have been kind of skewed in recent years, because when I was growing up, the Footballer of the Year, certainly domestically, and then the European Footballer of the Year, as it was called at that time, before it was the Ballon d'Or, they tended to be given to the player that has had an outstanding season. So, it wasn't always what we've seen in recent years, where Messi or Ronaldo have won it because they're perceived to be the best player. And so even years when arguably you could say that they didn't play as well, they still won it because they were perceived as the best.
Right.
And so I think everything's got skewed, and I think Rodri was a deserving winner because he had a fantastic year. He showed himself to be a key performer for Manchester City, because it was kind of well known that when he's not playing, that they don't always get the same type of result. And then obviously he then reproduced that for Spain.
Yeah.
So he did it at both club and international level. I mean, Vinicius Jr. is a fantastic player. I mean, there's no denying that. But he hasn't particularly done it for Brazil yet. So I would say that if you're comparing the two, that that's a factor for me. So I know that Benzema was quoted as saying, "Well, Rodri doesn't get me off my seat like Vinicius Jr. does." I know he doesn't, but the point is, who had the best season overall and contributed to the success of both the club team and the international team.
Yeah.
So I feel that Rodri was deserving, and so I would like to see the current season performance given more credence again, because I feel it used to be, but it's more who is the GOAT, as they say now. Who's the GOAT? Just as we've been going through the Manchester City era, we've been going through the era of Messi and Cristiano Ronaldo, and I wouldn't like to see that again, where it's just dominated by one or two.
Yeah.
I think it's good when different players come to the fore.
Yeah. Okay. Well, everybody, thank you for listening and watching. Now this was our first actual live stream. I know I said it last week, but I screwed up on ending the recording. I'm not going to do it this time. Coach and I were talking, and it did not ended the recording. I will make sure to do that. But thank you, as always, for watching on YouTube and listening wherever you listen to your podcast. We will catch you next week, where we will be discussing the Bayer Leverkusen match and the Aston Villa match. Take care, everybody.